All right, well, I will go ahead and get started. Um, my name is Marilyn Bennett. I am the Outreach and Digital Resources Librarian for the Montana State Library. I'm also the Regional Librarian for the Montana State Library Talking Book Services. Oh, and thank you to Coley for keeping up with chat. I'm not super great at looking, so feel free to put chats in there and Coley can read them out to me. Feel free to interrupt me at any time too if I'm talking too fast, because sometimes I do that, or if you have any questions, because I would love to answer all your questions. All right, so let's get started. So I will give a brief overview of the program, and then we can go into details later on in the presentation. So Montana State Library Talking Book Services is basically a program that is a free service for Montana residents who are unable to use standard print materials due to visual, physical, and or reading disabilities. So this can be like low vision, physical disabilities like unable to hold a physical book. There's lots of different ways you can be eligible for this program. I'll go into eligibility later. So basically, once a person that knows that they are eligible for this service or know someone else who is eligible for this service, they obtain an application. They fill out that application. They get what's called a certifying authority, basically someone who just lets us know that this person is eligible for services. Once that application is filled out and they have that certifying authority sign off on the application is mailed here to my office here in Helena, Montana, and I can give you all the addresses in just a minute. But I look over the application, make sure it's complete, and then I send it for processing. And then a reader's advisor contacts the patron and talks to them about reading preferences, their account, how they want to receive books, that kind of thing. There are several different ways to receive books and materials, and just sets them up on either if they get automatic service or if they want to call in with a list of books. This program is very customizable for the patron, and so we just really encourage them to talk to that reader's advisor and get their preferences all set up. So once that happens and they're set up with books, books come as long as they still want the service. They can stop at any time. Again, this is a free service. I just want to say that several times that it's a free service. So I will talk a little bit about our governing bodies and our partnerships. We are a part of the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped as well. They're our governing body, basically. They set the rules. They started this program many, many years ago before there was even regional libraries, which is a library in every state. They started this service. So they, like I said, are a governing body, and then we also work with the Utah State Library as well. There's been a couple changes here to this program recently in Montana, and one of those is that last summer, we decided to enter a partnership with the Utah State Library program for the blind and disabled. Now they circulate all of our materials, all of our books, all of our playback equipment, that kind of thing. They provide readers advisory services. Prior to our partnership with them, we did do everything here in-house. We had several members of this staff who did everything like that, but through COVID and several other changes, we just didn't have the resiliency in this program that we thought that we needed. And so our partnership with Utah definitely provides that. And a great example of that is actually, I think 6 days after Utah State Library started the circulation of materials and started this partnership, the Montana State Library building flooded, and quite, I wouldn't say destroyed, but it was out of service for a long time. And so um, our services, the Talking Book Library services, would have been put on hold for at least a month, maybe more. And so we're just really thankful for the partnership and glad that it happened when it did. So I will go on to eligibility for this program. So like I said, there are several different ways to be certified for and able to use this service. Blindness and low vision um, are pretty self-explanatory. They've been part of this program for a really long time. I have those definitions right there on the screen. But physical disability and reading disability are slightly newer to the program, so I'll go into some examples of those just because they're not thought of as much as the blindness and low vision. So physical disability can be anything that causes a patron not to be able to hold a physical book. So this can be weakness or tremors due to like Parkinson's, things like that, traumatic brain injury. Doesn't even have to be a traumatic brain injury, some sort of injury to your brain or your arms, something like that, that causes a patron not to be able to lift a book, or even if it's not comfortable. If it's not comfortable to hold a book, they are qualified for this service. Also, reading disability. So things like ADHD, where you can't concentrate on blocks of text at a time. Things like dyslexia, dyscalculia, things like that. So um, like I said, those have more recently been added to the program, and so we're really excited about that and being able to open this to more people. So like I said, certifying authority, we have several different categories for this. Blind and low vision, we really prefer to have some sort of doctor or medical professional certify these applications. So as you can see, there's several different types of doctors that people can go to. However, we do know that sometimes going to a doctor, getting that signature from a person is very difficult. And so there's also a second category, the staff of public or welfare agencies. So like psychologists, school psychologists, like superintendents, and librarians. So librarians can certify applications. Like I said, we prefer doctors for blind and low vision, but we will take, excuse me, a librarian is definitely able to be to certify applications. And so we're really, really happy about that. We hope it is a decrease in the barriers to service that we found popping up in the past. So signing up with the Montana Talking Book program is hopefully pretty easy. First step is to complete the application. There's an individual or institution application. They can get that professional certification signature. They either mail or scan and email the application and send it to us here. We are in the very last stages of getting updating our online applications, and we're really excited about that because unfortunately we did have a online application, but that was pretty clunky, and like I said, it was another barrier to service. People were finding it really difficult. So we are starting a new application with a new service called DocuSign, and we're hoping that will be much easier for people to fill out, and no one will have to create accounts. Hopefully it will be, like I said, much simpler. And so once the application is given to me here in Helena, as the regional librarian, I have to approve all applications. I just look through the application, make sure that it's complete, and then I send it along to Utah for processing. Then a phone interview with a reader's advisor will take place with the patron. And like I said before, they're just going to be setting up reading preferences, asking how they want books to be sent. There are several different ways books can be sent. And then a patron is either set up with Bard, access to Bard, which I'll explain in a minute, or a player, and books will be mailed through the mail. Okay, so different ways of delivery for materials. So the first way is called BARD, which is Braille and Audio Reading and Download. And it is an app or a website, and it can be downloaded on any sort of device that has internet access, phone, tablet, computer, that kind of thing. As long as, like I said, as long as there's consistent internet access, this person can use the app. And in that BARD collection, there's hundreds of thousands of titles, and we're adding titles pretty much every day to this collection. And that collection is audio and Braille books, magazines, and even music scores. The other way is receiving books and equipment through the USPS. Like I said, this is a free service. We have our own postal code that tells the postal workers that this is a free service and not to charge. And so a patron can receive physical, like playback equipment. I can show you the equipment at the end of this. And they get digital books on these cartridges that are basically USB drives that plug into the machine. And they can also receive hard copy Braille books and magazines. And then also patrons can use both if they would like. If they would like BARD, because of that instant download access, they can use that, and then they can also get books through the mail. Like I said, this program is pretty customizable, and so we like to be able to offer our patrons as many different options as possible. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about public library accounts since I'm talking mostly to librarians. So we have what's called an institution application and institution accounts. And those are a little bit different than public library accounts, but it's going to be the same application. And institutions like rehab facilities or hospitals or things like that, they actually are able to have equipment and books there that they can loan out to people that are qualified for the service. And that is great because sometimes people are only there for a couple weeks and they're able to use the service. But public libraries, it is BARD demonstration purposes only. Those accounts are BARD demonstration only. And so once you fill out the institution application and receive access to the BARD website, then you can have access to the entire BARD catalog. You can help patrons look through all the titles that we have, that kind of thing. You can show people how to download books onto BARD, onto their own equipment, that kind of thing. We also provide some equipment for public libraries. So if you have a patron who would like to, play around with the machine or look at the catalog for more than a couple minutes, you can loan out that equipment for a couple hours at a time, and they can download non-copyrighted titles. And there's about 25 non-copyrighted titles in the catalog, and they're things like Wizard of Oz and Little Women. There is some general nonfiction too. So patrons can have a little bit of a taste of what our catalog is like and that kind of thing. So patrons can also use libraries as email and download access sources. This, of course, is really up to the library themselves if they are comfortable with that and they can set up that kind of system. So a patron needs an email address in order to sign up for a BARD account. And so if patrons don't have emails, they can use a library email, like I said, as long as the library is comfortable with that, or they can use library computers or library devices to download into their own accounts. So it is, like I said, it's pretty customizable. This part is as well. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to call me and we can talk through your specific situation. All right, so a few last little things that didn't really fit on any of the slides I've already had. So like I said, we have free matter for the blind, it's called. That is our USPS code. And so as long as you are shipping something to me or to the National Library Service, it is for this program. It can be used as free matter for the blind. And pretty much the only time you as librarians will probably need to use this is if you have a patron who needs to mail the application back to us. They can go ahead and use that USPS code. Um, let's see here. This program also offers a refreshable Braille e-reader, which is super exciting. Patrons can download Braille onto their Braille e-reader, and it's just like a little keyboard that refreshes. And it also has an audio component as well, so the story can be read out loud while the Braille is being read on the keyboard. This is still kind of relatively new within the last, I think, 3 years that we have been able to offer this. So some patrons still don't know about it, and it is a really, really cool device to be able to share with people. So if you know of someone who has this program, make sure to mention the Braille e-reader, because we would love to get those into more hands in Montana. We also offer what's called NFB Newsline, and Newsline is an audio news service. And so it has thousands of national publications, news publications, whether that be newspapers or news websites, that are read every single day, and they can get, pretty up-to-date news on that. We also have, I believe, 5 different Montana newspapers, like the Montana Standard, the Helena IR, a few other newspapers from around the state. And basically what happens is those newspapers give the readers and narrators an advance copy of the newspaper. The narrators read all of that, and then patrons can access this service by phone. It is a phone service. You call into this number and you have a phone menu that you can go through, touch tone on your phone kind of thing, or it is accessed online as well. So it is another website that you patrons can get set up with and have their news delivered that way. The next thing is the Marrakesh Treaty. And you don't really need to know what the Marrakesh Treaty is, but it's basically just an agreement between the United States and many other countries in the world. And it's basically an agreement to say that books that are produced in the United States can now be shared around the world and internationally, and international books that are provided that are recorded in other countries can now be downloaded and accessed in the United States. And so this is really relatively new. Again, it's probably within the last 3 or 4 years. So while our foreign language selection is a little bit smaller than our English selection, I say we, but the National Library Service is really the one that's working on this. They are working every single day to add more languages, and I believe we have almost 30 languages besides English now. And of course, we have major languages like Spanish and French and German and things like that, but we're also always looking for other languages as well. And that kind of leads me into my last point, the recording studio. We have a recording studio here in Helena, and we are currently setting it back up. It had to be moved after the flood, but my hope is that in the near future, we're going to be able to record local authors, and I would especially really like to get some Native American authors and voices in the studios. And an example of this is we recently did a recording of the Thunderous book by M.L. Smoker and Natalie Patrice. And this is a middle school graphic novel that is aimed at middle schoolers. However, I believe anyone can read it. It is a really good story. It is about a Native American girl getting in touch with her heritage, things like that. The authors ended up voicing most of the book. And then we also are doing some recording on, I believe, the Blackfeet Reservation to get some more Native voices on this recording. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking forward to doing in the future, is more local recording and more recording of Native voices and things like that. So that is pretty much the end of this presentation. Does anyone have any questions? I can also show the equipment now if we want to do that next. Okay, so I should have gotten pictures of these.
Oh, no, yeah, and John Welcome has a question about the cartridges, so you're exactly on track with the question.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so this is what the cartridge looks like. Hopefully everyone can see this. I can also post pictures of these. I can get those to Colette, and maybe she can post those as well. So this is what the cartridge looks like. This is what the playback machine looks like. It has all sorts of all sorts of buttons and things like that on it. The cartridge just plugs in right there, and it is all voice, not activated, but has every single button has a voice feature on it, so it's all audio, and people can, are able to either learn this by touch, or since each button has it says what it is. It's really relatively easy to learn for patrons. The machine plugs into the wall. It also has battery power, so people can take it from different rooms of the house. We offer headphones in case you have other people around and you want to be quiet and things like that. So that is pretty much all of the equipment. Did anyone have any more questions about the equipment?
I don't see any other questions, Marilyn.
Okay.
But we will have the slides available and the transcript as well. So look for those, if not late this afternoon, by tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you, Colette. And I have my information there on the screen. Hopefully you can still see it. Feel free to give me a call, email me anytime with any questions. I would love to talk to you, everyone that has questions, and get as many people signed up for this program as possible. So
thank you so much, Marilyn. It's always great to see and hear very specifically about what this program is doing now, especially with the changes from last year. And I know that our hope is just to, serve as many people who can qualify for the services as possible, because it just has such a rich, not just history, but the rich content and access for people who need to be just as informed and entertained and that as any other patron in our library. So you make it easy for our libraries to be able to do that.